Hello and welcome. Good to know you're there. Thank you so much for being there. You've been wonderful. You've been awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your liking, your commenting, your sharing, and thank you for subscribing too. Thank you so much. Now, we already started our journey on minerals, and we've done with the vast majority of the major minerals required in a certain large quantity to have significant effects in the body metabolism. And we are right now in micronutrients, those that are required in just small quantity to have a significant impact. So today we'll continue with we're actually drawing the curtain on dietary manganese. We started already with the historical perspective, which in case it was actually discovered in 1774, and then between 1930s to 1950s discovered the importance of manganese not just as a metal but as a dietary very important component in animal and human nutrition. So we've also looked at sources, mostly green leafy vegetables, legumes, and the other cereals. And we looked at the absorption, mostly in the small intestine, and then the metabolism, or you want to call transportation, the proteins that are involved, amino acids involved in it, and then the functions of it: growth hormones, cofactor hormones, and then cofactor of enzymes, and usual part of hormones prosynthesis. Now we'll be looking at deficiency symptoms today. Now please, if you've not looked at the previous videos, please, I want to enjoin you to look at the previous video. Now, can I ask you a favor? Do well to follow us right now. Just click the button, click follow, and thank you, and also like. Thank you so much. Thank you. So let's go on today. Now we have deficiency symptoms. Now deficiency, by that will mean the signs or the symptoms you begin to notice when a particular nutrient or nutrient component is actually in low quantity or insufficient quantity, or maybe there but the body is not absorbing, or even if it's absorbing, it's not utilizing it. So it could be that it's not there, it could be that it's there, it's absorbed, it could be also that it's absorbed but not properly utilized. So these are some of the things. We're just going to go them very briefly. We're not going to wax very scientific about it, just very briefly. It's the same with humans and animals, especially with most vertebrates. So first, we see that deficiency of manganese is actually a rare condition. It's not very common. The reason being that we don't need so much quantity for us to have for it. You don't need so much quantity. It's part of the micronutrients. That's one very small quantity required, and in most times you find them in readily available sources like green leafy vegetables and legumes, cereals that are used in compounding feed for animals. Humans eat legumes, eat cereals, and eat green leafy vegetables. So more often than not, it's not very common. But in cases where it happens, deficiency symptoms, these are some of the things you see. We've established that it's a rare condition. It doesn't happen because more often than not, the sources are abundant and it's required in a very small amount to have a huge impact. So some of the observable problems could be poor bone growth and abnormal skeleton. Of course, the skeleton combination of different bones. We've seen that manganese is crucial in the formation of cartilages. Cartilages are the extremities of the bones that eventually become more calcified, eventually become more mature, and they form bones. So as the cartilages mature, they form into calcified. They also become calcified, form bones. So bones are formed from cartilages. So manganese is very crucial. So when there's shortage of manganese or no inability to absorb or utilize it, it can lead to what? Abnormality of bones or solving problems, poor bone formation or growth. It may impair growth of the animal, impair growth if it's human, impair growth. Then number 2, impaired glucose tolerance. Because it's important in glucose metabolism, where manganese is actually not in good quantity, it affects what? The utilization of glucose in the body. Of course, glucose is the primary source of energy for certain parts of the body, for example the brain, and it's very crucial, glucose. Then number 3 is reduced fertility. Now, why do we talk about fertility? Because certain hormones that are crucial for reproductive prowess, potentials, are actually dependent or have manganese as their component. As a matter of fact, if manganese is deficient, those hormones are not going to be in abundance or in quantities that are required, or they may not be there. So once those hormones are not there, it's going to affect fertility in cases in humans or animals. But then do not forget again, it's not always common to have deficiency for the 2 reasons I've already stated. Number 1, the manganese is required in a very small quantity to have a large effect. So most likely you would have eaten, or animal would have eaten either legumes or cereals or leafy vegetables and other sources of it. Now, number 4, weakness and fatigue. Of course, wherever there's an impairment in this, is going to affect this, because glucose metabolism releases energy. You look at the glycolytic pathway, the electron transport chain, even the electron transport chain before that is the triglyceride, that is the respiratory processes. Once this is affected, glucose metabolism is affected, is going to lead to weakness. So that is established. Then number 5, altered metabolic processes. Apart from problem with glucose, also lipids. Example, lipid. Now, what are lipid? Lipid is a general biochemical name for fats and oils. Fats and oils. What are fats? Fats are more saturated lipid. Oils are unsaturated. They are not saturated, fats are saturated. Number 2, fats are mostly found in animal tissues like meat and milk and the others. But you have oils mostly in plant tissues. You have coconut oil, groundnut oil, soybean oil, sesame seed oil. So the oils are unsaturated in plant sources. Fats are in animal sources. So you have them this way. So metabolic processes without the deficiency of manganese is actually affected. Now, in drawing the curtain, we look at poor wound healing. Now, we looked at this because manganese is essential in some blood proteins that are essential in forming the mesh over wounds. So once manganese is actually impaired, it's actually affected. For example, you have albumin, which is a blood protein, and globulin, which is a blood protein. And we looked at that previously when we were talking about metabolism or transportation. So please again go back to the previous video and check, so you're going to see it. So manganese, once it's deficient, it affects wound closure or healing. So having said this and other, you have 1 or 2 others, you have a question, so please drop out the comments or send me a mail at agriforhealth.com or ikozurugbo@gmail.com, ikozurugbo@gmail.com. Sorry. Now let's go back as we draw the curtain on this historical perspective. Talked about manganese discovered essentially 1774, which happened to be the birthday in quotes of the United States from the British colonial masters. Then the year and the sources from legumes, from oats, from seeds, from cereals and leafy vegetables particularly, and then absorption or transportation. Absorption essentially occurs in the small intestine. we look at metabolism or transportation, we'll see that manganese is actually carried by certain, it binds itself with certain blood proteins and are taken into different parts of the body where they perform their functions and are utilized. And then it functions good in formation of bones and also in certain hormones that are good for reproductive system and in helping in metabolism of both fatty acids, fats and oil, and glucose and the others. Also as cofactor for enzymes. And then deficiency symptoms as we looked at today, poor blood growth and also glucose intolerance, in which case there's also reduced fertility where there's impairment in the production of certain hormones, and also weakness and fertility. Of course, when glucose is impaired, is going to result to weakness and fertility, and then altered metabolic processes for particularly lipid, fat and oils, and poor wound healing. We draw the curtain on today's class and also manganese. In the next class, we go into another micronutrient. You want to know the next micronutrient, so let's see in the next class. Please like, share, subscribe, follow. Thanks. Let's see.